Today on Locked On Rockies. Another loss for the Rockies in spring training yesterday, with a little bit of context when you look at the roster that the Rockies sent out there. Good to see a crooked number. Good to see some performances from others. Will it be enough for players like Zac Veen to make the opening day roster?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 12th day of March in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. All you got to do, head on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and fire off those comments there in that comment section. We've had so many that we keep doing our closing segment on YouTube comments as we continue to figure out and determine what's going on with the Rockies here, especially in spring. And a couple of questions on today's episode. Who will be this year's Jake Cave, and will the Rockies stick with that veteran presence versus going with some of the young guys? Has Zac Veen done enough to get onto the opening day roster? That mixes into this conversation about who will be the next year's Jake Cave. And let's talk a little bit, of course, about the game yesterday, because a bit of a frustrating one when you're the Rockies, down 3 early, then you bounce back, you put up the 5 spot, and, 4 runs, and then another in the 8th. And then the bottom of the 8th, it all falls apart. 5 runs given up there in a tough day for Seth Halverson yesterday, as the rest of the pitching staff pretty darn sharp there, but unfortunately not the day for Halverson. 2 walks, 3 hits, 5 earned, and a strikeout. But the starter in this game, I mean, Kyle Freeland, if you obviously you're always a little bummed when runs score, but 8 Ks for Kyle Freeland there. And the Reds were playing some starters yesterday. There was Ellie De La Cruz, for example, in the lineup. But you know, it's kind of, I think, a lot of changing out, a lot of work there. But but great to see Kyle Freeland picking up the strikeouts again. Unfortunately, for my Kyle Freeland spring takes, I have to immediately tamper my expectations because of how excited I was last year about Kyle Freeland and the increased velocity that we were seeing. But anytime that Kyle Freeland can go out and get you 6+ strikeouts, that's going to be great. And I think, I really, really think this year, with the rest of the rotation back, it just takes up. So it's going to take off just a little bit of the edge for Kyle Freeland, where he's not going to have to try to do as much, not try to do everything that in my opinion, I feel like he's had to pressure himself to do, to be the best version of himself, to be the best pitcher, because he's the last remaining piece of that rotation that made it to the postseason and has had success in Colorado. I think Kyle Freeland is in for, again, I don't think he's going to dominate. He's not going to be a Cy Young or anything like that this year, but I do think Kyle Freeland will be better with Herman and Senza in the lineup and in the rotation as well. Interesting with the Gomber injury news yesterday. I saw this on MLB.com and Bud Black talking about it. Sounds like Gomber is starting to heat back up a little bit in terms of ramping things back up, but the Rockies might be going with a 4-man rotation to start the season here. Let me see if I can find that real quick and get the quote here. It's probably not going to be too quickly and too easy to find, but anyway, that was something to keep your mind on as we're going in there, because it doesn't sound quite like that Austin Gomber is going to be 100% to start the season here. Let me see if I'll just do a quick Austin Gomber search here real quick so I can get you the actual dates here. Let's see, because he was dealing with those shoulder issues, of course, which is the main reason that it's plaguing him there. But this is taking too long. Anyway, Austin Gomber, Rockies might be doing a 4-man rotation there, so it is going to be key that these Rockies starters hit the ground running, because as much as I'm saying that Kyle is going to benefit from the return of Senza and Herman, they're all going to be dealing with a shorter amount of rest and shorter amount of turnaround there. But I think the schedule is allowing them to keep those scheduled off days and things like that, and what they want to do. I can't imagine the Rockies are going to push Senza and Herman too hard to start the season here, given that they're both coming off of injuries. So, brief little update there, but again, big news is at least the big takeaways an 8 strikeout day there from Kyle Freeland. I will forever be a Kyle Freeland fan. I really think that any team would be happy to have a pitcher of his caliber and his strength. And I think that now that the Rockies aren't in a position to lean on him as their number one, that helps him. And it helps the Rockies because this rotation again, it's not going to be league leading. Woof. But we've seen these guys be successful, and there's reason to be way more confident in this rotation this year. And yesterday's game with Freeland picking up eight Ks, that's always a good sign there too. Wanted to talk a little bit about the veteran battle, the veteran who will be this year's Jake Cave type of battle. And there's an interesting type of matchup going on here. And the question should be, should it really be a veteran player that is going to be getting, gets that last bench spot or becomes the rotating in outfield guy? And as we know with Bud Black, his tendencies to play the vets, play the seasoned grizzled guys. But here's my thing. I don't think either one of these guys is going to knock your socks off enough. And it kind of depends on where the Rockies go with this, right? Because you got Kyle Farmer, who's having a pretty darn good spring right now. 381 batting average, 409 OBP, slugging 381 in 21 at-bats, 3 RBI, only 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, 8 hits in that time as well. So, okay. But he's an infielder, so that kind of makes things interesting. What's that look like? Who's he really backing up? Is he just a utility guy? Because he can play, at least according to Baseball Reference here, short, second, and third. So, of course, got that whole left side of the infield that he can take care of there. And then you go and you look over at Nick Martini. Nick Martini has gotten in 12 games here, 33 plate appearances in this one. 6 walks. I think that's the big one there. 5 strikeouts, 308 batting average, an OBP of 455, a slugging of 538, OPS 993, a couple of home runs, 4 RBI, and a stolen base so far this spring. Okay. All fine and dandy. It is encouraging, right? But overall, like where do we really think the ceiling, for example, will be for Nick Martini this year? Minus 0.4 WAR last year and 146 at-bats, 212 batting average, 5 home runs, 24 RBI, and a stolen base, and 272 OBP, 370 slugging, 641 OPS. And the career isn't blowing the doors off anything here for a guy that is going to be 35 or is 35, I'm sorry, this season here. Where's the potential upside of these guys, of a Nick Martini and a Kyle Farmer, 4.6 career WAR there. Is it better than just fully committing and sticking with a Sean Bouchard, Jordan Beck plan, and you'll kind of figure out your options for the infield? For example, here's what the bench utilities plan according to Thomas Harding, and this is who's making a case. This isn't a who Thomas Harding is saying is making the lineup here, but this is from a couple days ago too, so keep that in mind. Bouchard's strong start to the spring not only could get him on the team, but it could get him into the regular lineup. Doyle showed signs of wear from playing the difficult center field at Coors, so expect Hilliard to have some opportunities in center as well as the corners. But here's the deal. Sam Hilliard's spring has been awful. And we briefly mentioned this, but like 28 at-bats, 32 plate appearances for Hilliard here. 15 strikeouts. No RBI, 1 stolen base, 1 caught. He's caught stealing. He's got 2 hits. Batting average under 100. I know it's Hilliard's familiar, but what's the plan there? Are you gonna keep Hilliard on the bench, and are you gonna keep Nick Martini on the bench? Are you gonna go with both of them? Is that 2 spots that are gonna be taken up by options that could be filled up younger? Because Kyle Farmer is listed on this Kyle Farmer, Sam Hilliard, and Sean Bouchard listed as the bench utility players here on this piece here. So Kyle Farmer, there your backup utility player in the infield, your guy that'll fill in when the other guys need a day off. That kind of makes sense there. But here's the interesting thing with this, right? With this piece, the DH is listed as Jordan Beck. The early portion of the spring has been slow enough to be concerning for Beck, who, as a first-rounder in 2022, breezed through the minors, only to sustain a left-hand injuries in the majors last season. The penciled-in plan is for Beck to start in right field at home and DH or move around the outfield on the road. But non-roster veteran Nick Martini's big camp could have him making the team if the Rockies believe Beck needs time in AAA to build his swing. Martini can also play some first base if Tolia has a rare day off. So there you go. There's a little interesting nugget there. But listed under the outfielders is Chris Bryant. He's still listed there. And nothing's changed there. I don't know why I would have expected it to change. But anyway, so who's going to be this year's Jake Cave? I if you're looking at it now, I think it's going to be Nick Martini. I mean, and I say that solely because he's a veteran outfielder. And until the Rockies prove it, until the Rockies commit and say, we are going young in the outfield, going full youth movement in the outfield, I am getting more and more convinced that right field is not going to be is not going to be used the way it should be this year. And we will still see some players like Bouchard or Beck play right field. I think it's very likely when you're looking at the springs that both of these players are having, more so Bouchard, they have a chance because again, I'm looking at Jordan Beck's, right, and it hasn't been a great spring training, but why would you stick with Sam Hilliard, for example, over Beck? Facing similar issues, both need to play. Both are going to be playing backup roles right there. But you're dealing with as this RotoWire report right here comes over and says Beck is being pushed by a roster spot. I guess this is the same thing we're reading. We just read. Yeah, okay, that's nothing. Anyway, so I hate when I get a little distracted by that. But anyway, it was saying it literally just linked right back to this article that we're reading from and totally threw off what I was going to say. But anyway, it's so if these young, if you're not going to let Beck figure it out at the major league level and you're going to have Hilliard fill that spot, or maybe Hilliard's at risk of losing his spot now. It's different, I know, with the contract stuff because I think Hilliard's actually under contract, like with a major league contract, and then Martini is technically on a minor league deal, I believe, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. The point is the ceiling going to be higher for the Rockies and for their development if they stick with this Jake Cave approach? If Nick Martini gets a bunch of starts this year, a bunch of playing time this year. I just don't necessarily think that's a good thing when you can have, maybe if Bouchard is the one that's really impressing you and you want to go there, let's go with that. Let's start with Bouchard out there and let him lead the way. And then the backup plan should be Jordan Beck there and use the DH. Because again, I just don't think that even if Nick Martini's good spring translates into it, we'll just see the repeat of the Jake Cave season where some big moments will happen, veteran guy, blah, 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 all that stuff, a good, maybe a good locker room presence. All that stuff is fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, Jake Cave played way more than he should have last year. Jake Cave last year got 323 at bats last year. I mean, Jake Cave played in 123 games last year. You just can't dedicate that much time to this level of player. And it's nothing against these guys. I mean, they're fine options, and Farmer will fill a solid role as a backup infielder and that bench spot, certainly. But if you're just going to trot out Nick Martini all the time or over rely on Sam Hilliard, what are we doing? What truly is the point? And mixed with this Chris Bryant outfield thing. I think the perfect storm is brewing for the mishandling of the outfield this year. I certainly do, because even with the slow start to the spring, I really don't think the Rockies are going to shy away from Nolan Jones. I don't necessarily think that a bad, like, I think if it's going to be, how do they look at it, and how does he feel healthy? I mean, I think it's going to be the big decision maker there. Because it's going to be even worse if the Rockies are out there playing two veteran guys in the outfield instead of figuring out what they got when Beck and Bouchard are at least playing well enough that they deserve at least an eyebrow raise and a shot. Jordan Beck's spring isn't that much worse than, I mean, if Hilliard makes the lineup over Beck, then it's just because you believe that Beck will have the adjustment at the minors and get that swing right. Certainly possible, but why not have him kind of learn and go through it with the major league level and use him and use this time and be willing to kind of challenge these players and challenge the experience and challenge them throughout the year, because they're going to have to play up to snuff and play up to this level of competition eventually. I don't know. I just so for me, this stuff. It's just screaming right now. Repeat of last year with the veteran playing time. Am I wrong? I hope so. Let me know what you think in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. We're going to take a break and let's talk about how Zac Veen should be the one making a case for this roster here this year, and why he should be the one being talked about instead of Sean Bouchard, Jordan Beck, and other veteran players for the Colorado Rockies. Let's talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. If you don't want to make a mess, maybe you're in a situation where you're like, can't really have shells going all over the place. Well, guess what? They got the no shells variety. Simple, fast, quick, easy, all for you there. And they also got a bunch of great flavors too that you can check out. And you can see all the details and get more for yourself at wonderfulpistachios.com. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Locked On Rockies here, returning for segment number 2. Paul Holden back with you here, thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Kind of rambling along here. Man, I got to tell you, I just, spring training is cool. I think spring training is an exciting, unique baseball experience, but it is, for me, with the pod and with the stuff, it just continues to just be this weird blob. It's like, what is real? What is the stuff to focus on? How much stuff can we really buy into? Especially because I'm going through that first segment. I'm sitting there, I'm yakking, and I realize I'm like, does it really matter? Does like the spring super duper matter with when the Rockies are kind of looking like they're falling back into a similar pattern here? I'm basically it's I guess there hasn't been any concrete details that the Rockies are going to get Nick Martini 120 games this year or something like that. But it just certainly feels that way. And it just the vibes that I'm getting from the Rockies and from the coverage from people that are with the Rockies and following the Rockies out there, it does seem like it is going to be, they're going to be sticking with these things. And again, these are supposed to be the baseball pros, the baseball experts, the guys that love and breathe and obviously know a hell of a lot more about the game than I do. But I don't think when I read this projected roster making, when I read the projected roster here for the Rockies, and most of it's like, pretty understandable and stuff that makes sense. I just get to this outfield part and it just looks at me and it just glares at me like I just can't believe that this would be after the last 2 seasons, after the way the last 6 seasons have gone. I just, which are losing seasons, obviously. I just am shocked that this draft and develop team isn't embracing their guys, isn't giving their guy, isn't emphasizing the opportunity for these guys. It is crazy to me to see Chris Bryant listed as the starting outfielder while Jordan Beck is the DH and Sean Bouchard is sitting on the bench. That just simply doesn't make sense to me. And it can be development, and it can be this, and it can be that. All of that's fine. But what is the point of this season if not to see the maximum amount of what you have from your young guys? Nick Martini, Kyle Farmer, Sam Hilliard, these guys aren't a factor in the long run. You need guys like that to finish a season and go through a season. Absolutely. I just don't understand why they continue to be the priority. Draft and develop. These guys got to earn it. These guys got to do it. We'll give them opportunity. And there's still time in spring. There's still plenty of spring training games, but the spring ends and the real season starts, and then that's when the clock starts ticking because, the Rockies, they play 162. That's about it. So every game that it doesn't happen, that you don't get these guys the experience, you don't get these guys the playing time, you don't take the risk to see, are these guys ready? Are they not? You just are left here, and fans are left here with question marks. So I think if you really want to make a statement, if you really want to shake things up in terms of the Rockies and kick the season off on an exciting note, if he continues to play this way, Zac Veen should make the team. Zac Veen should make the team and then be playing. Maybe not starting every game, maybe not that, and maybe it's a stint where he gets sent down, but it's time to start embracing the energy of these guys as well. It's time to start trusting these guys and believing that they can perform. Too long, it feels like guys just sit in this test chamber of like, will they, won't they? Oh, we got more data. We got to go and data. The Rockies, funny. He's got to get that swing right. Got to get the swing right at AAA. Well, they'll get the swing right, be right at AAA, and then they come up here and they'll start striking out all the time because the Rockies can't stop striking out. But Zac Veen right now is batting .290 with an OBP of 353, a slugging of 581, and an OPS of 934. He's driven in 8 RBI. He's got 2 home runs, and he's stolen 4 bases. 9 hits, including 3 doubles in that time. And obviously an issue here, like will be an issue for all of the Colorado Rockies this season, 8 strikeouts. But why not take a chance on that line? Why are we not hearing more about Veen here? I mean, when you're looking at things to be excited about by the fact that Zac Veen's doing that, not to mention the fact that he's an energy guy and the fact that he's got personality and certainly will bring that level up for the Rockies. But this is pretty solid. This is a good sample size of the abilities of the hitter here. multiple extra base hits, 5 of them, in fact, 3 of them doubles, 2 of them home runs, 8 RBI. You have the stolen bases here. This is a solid spring right now in 15 games for Zac Veen, with the possibility of it being better. So why not embrace your bench or your core or these guys being Veen, Bouchard, Beck? Why not go with that? Is Kyle Farmer? Oh well, Kyle. I keep bringing up Kyle Farmer, but he's the backup infielder. That's a different story. But is Nick Martini is what he brings as a veteran, as a very average veteran baseball player, is what he's doing, is that really truly enough and really truly going to help the Rockies be a game changer and put them in a position to win, as we've liked to hear before? Again, not a horrible career from Nick Martini, but nothing to knock your socks off here. Again, this guy, he's 35 years old, and he's got 500 at-bats in his career. 13 home runs, career batting average of 252, 70 RBI, 1 stolen base, an OBP of 336, slugging of 400, an OPS of 736 with an OPS plus of 100. That's fine. It's a 1 WAR career. That is above average baseball. But that's just been, why add another one of those type of players into the lineup for the Rockies? Why continue to stick with that plan for the Colorado Rockies? Why not embrace these exciting young guys and with ceilings we really don't know what they might be? Is sticking with Martini really a better option than sticking with the other young guy, than going with a straight core of young guys? I don't know. Anyway, this we will take a quick break here, and I want you guys to let me know what you think as well, because maybe I'm out of line, maybe I'm getting too excited about the young guys, maybe I'm overreacting. I just don't think what we've seen from some of these veteran players is enough to completely derail the possibilities of what Beck, Veen, and Bouchard can bring to the team this year. In a year that you should be really, really looking at that type of stuff. All right, let's take some YouTube comments and finish up the show after a quick break. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5. That's promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Thank you so much again for making us your first listen of the day. And thank you so much for going on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and firing off your Rockies hot takes. So let's dive into some right now. Right now. TK says, I still think they will win 70. They will not be the worst team with Herman and Senza back and healthy and the young arms in the bullpen. The hitting, on the other hand, does look similar to the last couple of years. Still believe Goodman will have a big year if given the chance. Prediction for this year, Karros will be third baseman by All-Star break and Rymack traded. Wow. I will believe her. And not to just throw water on it here. I just don't think the Rockies have ever been that close to trading Ryan McMahon. I think they like Ryan McMahon. I think he even with the fact that he's kind of a frustrating guy, and the fact that we know how good he can be, And we know how great those stretches can be, but the strikeouts and the inconsistencies are a big thing. But I think last year's trade deadline showed you where the Rockies are at with McMahon. But could be different. And another if he's got another all-star first half of the season, teams will be calling. Let's see. Sell the team, Monfort says. If Monfort sells the team, there will be some hope. Good podcast. You made some very good points. Thank you there. Timothy Adams says, I do have hope for this team. There are some great young players to be excited about. The pitching as a whole is the best in years with great depth coming up. The lineup will be good as well. Yes, this year might only be 65 to 70 wins, but the next 3 to 5 years are going to be great to watch. Also, Paul, I think it would be fun to look back at 30 years of Coors Field and maybe talk about the best games there of all time. Of course, NLCS Game 4 would be the highlight, but I love the Helton retirement game, which I was at, with Drew Stubbs hitting the walk-off home run. Sorry, I did forget Game 163. Yes, obviously Cargo's cycle, Arenado's cycle. There is a long list of games that you can go down and go through. It's actually a great idea and something that I'll probably have at this point. I should have done in the offseason, looking forward to it. But great call there. That's something I got to get some guests on as well to talk about that. But there are a lot of examples because I was too young to fully, truly appreciate everything going on with the Bombers. So there's probably plenty of those games that I missed as well. Jim says, might have gotten a little bit too excited about the Colorado Rockies last week, but still hopeful. On the positive side, I'm impressed to see you getting new sponsors, Paul. I hope you double your viewership also. Thank you so much for that, Jim. Really appreciate that. If the Monforts don't sell in the next 3 or 4 years, short of the Rockies having a decent season followed by a good season, then we can all be bummed together on your show. Go fans, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Hey, that's what we do around here. Rockies fans in it together, talking rocks, no matter how frustrating they might be. We all love our Rockies around here. That's why we're fans. That's why we stick around. Marco here says, thanks, Paul. Well, I was not in favor of bringing Bud Black back since last year. He became only a handful of managers in MLB history to lose 100 games back-to-back seasons. My biggest issue right now is that the hitting coach wasn't replaced, and thus our approach at the plate hasn't changed. Once again, the Monforts are hoping the planets will align. Sorry, that just happened in February and won't happen again until 2040. Or the Rocks will catch lightning in a bottle, or whatever cliche you want to use, and don't appear interested in moving this team forward. We need to move beyond the 3 true outcomes approach at the plate, not only because we're striking out too much, but also not walking enough. Yeah, I'm with you there, Marco. I think there needs to be an evaluation of this hitting staff and what has gone wrong for Colorado Rockies offense this stretch of losing has gone there. The Rockies offense has declined and has not bounced back in a meaningful way, which it desperately needs to do. It's one of the most important things the Rockies can do this season is be a better team on offense. A lot of worries there, obviously, about pitching in Colorado, but I don't think it can be talked about enough. The issues that the offense has dealt with and the poor quality that the offense has been over the past few seasons. Felix says, not a question, but I appreciate the announcers we have. The other announcers be making me sleep. Shout out to Drew Goodman, Ryan Spielberg, and Jeff Houston. And I think there's a lot of people that love our team. It's a dedicated bunch. It's a familiar bunch for people. I love Jack and Jerry as well on the radio side. I think it's an entertaining broadcast all around and a very, very hard job to do. But shout outs to the broadcast crew and shout outs to everyone that makes Rockies baseball and bringing it to us possible. Folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully on Locked On MLB. Or if you're getting ready for your fantasy baseball drafts, Locked On Fantasy Baseball's got you covered there. They're breaking down position by position, making sure that you're going to be able to build the perfect lineup for the summer. For your next listen as well, if you need more Colorado sports, you got Locked On Broncos, you got Locked On Avalanche, you got Locked On Nuggets, you got Locked On Buffs. So much Colorado sports coverage. You can't beat it. Right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Find us free and streaming. Find us on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.